set an interval notation. So up at the top, what does this graph say? How would you read this graph? Does anyone remember?
Anything less than 4,
Yeah.
but not equal to.
Okay. It's talking about numbers that are less than, but not equal to 4. Here's the easiest way to, kind of read a graph like this. Start with the number. The number where the circle is what? 4. Right? And then if you look at your arrow's going to the left, so then that means the numbers are getting smaller, and so that means it's less than, right? So what we're really saying is just any old number, say is x, right? X is less than 4. Now, we'll leave it as x is less than 4 because that was an open circle. What if this is a closed circle? Then what?
Then it includes 4.
Yeah, so how would you write that?
You put a line underneath the...
Good. If it's a closed circle, then you would put less than or equal to, right? You would have to put this little line there. Good. All right, let's talk about something called set builder notation. Now, notation is basically just saying how you write something, okay? So set builder always looks like this. We always have our curly braces, all right? And that is talking about the set of values. Okay, it's a set or a group. Now look at the next box. It's pointing at x, or your variable. What is the variable?
The unknown number.
Yeah, the unknown. Whatever that letter is. They usually give you a letter, right? Now you see this bar right here? Okay, you always need that as well. The bar basically means such that. And then the next part is just your rule or your inequality, okay? And that one says x is what?
X is greater than 4.
Good, x is greater than 4. Okay. All right. So let's talk about something called interval notation. All right. Now, interval notation, it sounds really weird in the beginning, and then once we start looking at some examples, it'll make a little bit more sense to you. So, interval notation, another way to write. The first thing you need to do is you need to write the first number of the interval and then the last number of the interval. Basically, from the left to the right. Okay? Because we always read our graph from the left to the right. And then the next thing we need to do is use a bracket, which is a square, looking parentheses, or parentheses around the edges. How do we know which one? Well, to include a number. So basically you have less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, or just a plain old equal to, right? That's all including that number. Then we need to use brackets. did not include the number. So basically you have less than, greater than, not equal, and ignore the last space. We're going to use parentheses. And by the way, guys, when I talk about an interval, I'm basically talking about just a piece of your graph. Like we're looking at just a, yeah, like a piece of the numbers or the solutions or whatever. All right? Some additional notation rules to include two intervals. So say we have two pieces to our graph, then we need to use something called a union or a little u in between them. Negative infinity and infinity, anytime you have those, they always use parentheses and never brackets. All right, questions so far? Okay. I know this all sounds really weird though, right? So let's talk about something really quickly. So if you have a number line, you have a number line like this, right? 0 in the middle, right? Just a regular old number line. Well, when I go to the right of 0, what kind of numbers am I going towards? Positive. So it could be positive 20 over here. It could be 50. What if I wanted to keep going? So I drew an arrow showing that I'm going forever and ever and ever. Where am I headed? To infinity, right? Infinity means you go forever and ever and ever. All right? So since we're going to the positive side, to the right is always headed towards positive infinity. Does that make sense? So then how about from 0 if we go to the left? What kind of numbers? Negative. So negative 20. I'm just making stuff up here, right? It's not to scale. Negative, like say that's negative 100, right? What if I put an arrow going to the left? Where am I going then? Negative infinity, yeah. Okay, does that make sense? If you guys see an arrow going to the left, it's always going towards negative infinity. If you see an arrow going to the right, it's always going towards positive infinity. Okay? So let's look at this graph. What does this graph say? X is what? What is the number? Good. X is less than 4. Good, right? By the way, if your variable is on the left side of the number, right? Then your inequality matches the arrow. You see how your arrow's going to the left? Doesn't that look like your, right? Okay, so that's another little tip. Alright. X is less than 4. Let's talk about interval notation with this. So we always read the graph from left to right. Yeah? Since you have an arrow going to the left, where's that going? What did we say? You have an arrow going to the left that's going towards negative infinity. So over here here, negative infinity. And then where does this graph stop? At 4. Is that an open circle or a closed circle? At 4. Open. If it's an open circle, look back at your notes. Open circle, guess what? Parentheses or bracket? Parentheses, right? To not include. Yeah? And what do the infinities get always? Parentheses, okay? Think of it as curved, just like the infinities are curved, okay? Is that weird? Is it not bad? Okay, good. Let's try some more. Let's try the first one together. Easiest thing to do here is start at the number, okay? X is what? What is this inequality? Less than. Good. So let's go to 1. What kind of a circle is that 1? Open or closed? Open. So I'm going to go to 1, make it open. And which way is this arrow going?
Right.
Oh.
Oh,
To the left. Right?
yeah.
Okay. So here's my graph. Now, my set builder notation, I'm going to use my curly braces. What is my variable? X. So put X and then put the bar. Okay. And then now put your inequality there. X is less than 1. Put that in there. There. That's all you have to do for set builder notation. Okay? Any questions about that? All right, so I want you guys to try the next one, graph it, and do the set builder notation. And then check with a shoulder partner. Make sure you guys have the same answer. All right, so let's look at the next columns together. X is less than or equal to 3. So I will go to 3. Put a closed circle, right? Because it's less than or equal to. And less than, well, it's pointing to the left. All right, there we go. Yes? Set builder notation would be curly braces, X bar. X is less than or equal to 3. Yes? All right, let's look at the next one. X is greater than 2. Open circle at 2. Greater, so we're going to the right. Set builder, curly braces, X bar. X is greater than 2. How are we doing?
Okay.
Are my answers good? All right. And the next one. X is greater than or equal to 1. So I'm going to go to 1, open, a closed circle, excuse me. Greater than or equal to, so we're going to the right. Set builder, X bar, X is greater than or equal to 1. Okay, so do my answers look like yours?
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's try interval notation. Now, interval notation, remember, we always start from the left. If we have arrows, we know we have infinities, right? Look at your first one. You have an arrow going to the left. Which infinity do we have? Negative. Good. Thank you. So from negative infinity all the way to, where does it stop? 1. Okay. And what kind of a circle? Is that one? Open or closed?
Open.
Open. Is that included or not included?
Open is not included.
Not included. You know what? We can do this. Let's go back here. Let's make a little note for ourselves. Yeah? Include closed circles. I'm going to put 2 because it feels weird just putting 1. You can put just 1. Oh, I put 2. And to not include would be open circles. So open, open. Okay? Will that help us a little bit?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so 1 has an open circle. So then is that parentheses or is it bracket?
Parentheses.
Good, thank you. Parentheses around that 1. And the negative infinity. Infinities always get what? Parentheses. Good job. Thank you, Tiffany. All right, so then let's look at the next one. I have an arrow going to the left. Where is this coming from? Huh? Negative. What did you say?
Negative.
Negative infinity? Yep. I said negative 1. No, not negative 1. Thank you. Negative infinity. If you have an arrow going to the left, it's coming from negative infinity. And then this stops at where? 3. Is that a closed circle or an open circle?
Closed.
Okay, so then is that parentheses or bracket? Bracket. So bracket around the 3, but the negative infinity always gets a parentheses. Alright, they don't always have to have the same symbol. Alright, it can be different. Alright, so let's look at the next one. Remember, we always read the graph from the left to the right. So this graph starts at what number? Kevin, what number does that start at? 2? Good. 2. And then you have an arrow going to the right. Where's that headed? Huh? Infinity, thank you. So again, infinity, parentheses. How about that open circle on the 2? Is that parentheses or is it bracket? Parentheses. Abner, do you agree? Alright. So let's look at the next one then. What do I write first? Yeah. Say it out loud. 1. And then you have an arrow going to the right. Where's that going?
Infinity.
To infinity, right? To the positive. Alright, so tell me what symbols, what notation they get. What does that 1 get?
Bracket.
Do you agree? Do you agree with Tom? Yeah? What do you say?
Yeah. Bracket.
Bracket? Yeah. And then the gave you the answer, didn't I? Parentheses around the infinity. Okay? All right. Questions? Okay, good. All right, so now I want you guys to try this first one. I want you to do the graph, the set builder notation, and the interval notation, please. And then we'll do the next 3 together. All right, well, let's try the first one together. X is greater than -3, right? So I'm going to go to -3. And you know what? Since it's a blank graph, just put it anywhere. Open circle, right? Greater, so it means I'm going to the right. All right, so graph is done. Now the set builder notation, curly braces, x bar, and then my inequality, which is x is greater than -3. Okay, so now for my interval notation. All right, see if you guys got this, okay? Starting from the left.
-3.
Good. And then it goes up to? Perfect. Now, parentheses around the infinity because they always get parentheses. Now, open circle gets a parentheses or bracket.
Parentheses.
Thank you. Great job. All right. And there we go. And we're done. Yeah? All right, let's look at the next one. So the next one's weird because they gave us the set builder notation. They didn't give us the inequality like they did before. Well, this is fine because where is your inequality? It's right there. Okay? So all you have to do is just transfer it over. X is less than or equal to 0. There we go. Now, let's graph this. I can put 0 anywhere. I'll put it right there. Less than or equal to 0. What kind of a circle does 0 get? Open or close?
Close.
Close. And since it's less than, I have to go to the left. Set builder's already done. Now I have to do my interval. You have an arrow going to the left. Where is that going? Thank you. Negative infinity. And remember, negative infinity always comes first. Okay? Don't write it on the right side. It has to be on the left side. And then it stops at 0, right? I know the infinities always get parentheses. What does that 0 get? Parentheses or bracket? Huh? Bracket. Thank you. Okay? So the next one says x is less than or equal to 1/2. Now don't freak out because it's a fraction, which is what always happens to me every year. This graph is blank. 1/2 could literally be anywhere, right? X is less than or equal to, so it's a closed circle. Which way am I going? Left or to the right? To the left. Good. Now, set builder. Right? Now, what about the interval notation? Can somebody read me theirs?
X such that X, and then
No, we already did that one. The one below it.
parenthesis, and then negative infinity, and then a comma, and then a half, and then a bracket.
Good. Perfect. Everyone else get that? You okay with that one? Yeah? Alright, so the last one is a little bit different. Let me show you a little shortcut that I do for this. Okay. So if I look at the last column, the only information that they gave me was the interval notation, right? So if they do that, then go graph it. That might be the easier way to start. This tells me I have to go to -1. And what kind of a circle is at -1? What does this parentheses tell me?
Open circle.
It's an open circle. Good. So I'll put -1 here. I'll put an open circle. And then look at your second number. It's at what? 3. So let me count from here. Negative 1, 0, 1, 2, and then 3. Guys, the 3 has a bracket. So what kind of a circle is that?
It's like that. So
Close one. Good. So now this is telling me I don't have any infinities, so there are no arrows. It's just going from negative 1 to 3, just like that, and you just connect it. That's it. Okay. Now I think the tricky part might be, how do we get the inequality? If you guys ever want to show a between type situation like this, because we're talking about between negative 1 and 3, yes? Here's how you do it. Put negative 1, put 3. All right, because you're saying from negative 1 to 3, x is between them, right? Now, whenever you write the betweens, the inequality that goes in there is they're both going to be less than, less than. So, less than, less than. Okay? That's how you show a between. Now, do any of those need a little line underneath to show equal? Yeah, which one? Yeah, at the 3. Good. Perfect. Thank you, Kevin. Does this make sense?
yeah.
Okay. So then now that I know the inequality, can I do the set builder notation? Yeah. Curly brace, x bar. Now this whole thing right here, negative 1. There we go. Okay. Question. All right, you feel good? No? All right. Okay, so let's look at the next part then. On the back of your notes, we have compound inequalities. So compound inequalities are basically just two inequalities written as one. All right? Like written as one expression. All right, so you have an and inequality, and this is the between, right? And inequalities are typically shaded in between the two numbers, just like the last one that we did. Okay? All right, so and we say in. I'll tell you what that in thing means too. Or inequalities are shaded outside of the two numerical values. So they're going out. I don't know why I put two blanks there. Okay, so or for out. Right? So what does this mean? Well, here's what your graph should look like. If you see the word or, right? Or means out. Show me your thumbs. Now, show me your thumbs. Now, show me your thumbs going out. right? That's what your graph should look like. Your thumbs are your arrows, okay? You're gonna have arrows going out, that's an or. Now, and your thumbs go out, in, so they're connected, okay? So if you ever get, if you ever want to make sure that you're graphing it correctly, if you see or, please remember your thumbs are out. They should be going out, okay? And if it's and, they should be in. They're connected, okay? All right, so what does this graph say? First of all, is this an and or an or? Good. Good. Did you hear Abner? You didn't hear Abner? Abner, what did you say? Or. Or. Do you agree? Do you agree? Okay. You guys are so quiet. This is an or. How did you know? It's out. Yeah. Perfect. So this is or. I'm gonna write that right away. So guys, when you have an or graph, you're basically just gonna write two inequalities. This left side and then that right side. So let's start with the left side. What number is your circle on the left side?
7.
On 7. Okay. Is that an open circle or a closed circle?
Open.
It's open. Is your arrow going to the left or to the right?
Back.
From the 7, where's your arrow going? To the left. So is that less than or greater than?
Less than.
All right. X is less than 7. Now, what about the next part? What's the number that the circle is on?
11.
11. So, is your X less than or greater than?
Greater than.
Greater than or equal. Good. Because it's a closed circle, right? There we go. And that's what that says. That's what the graph says. Questions about this? Okay, what does this graph say? Is this an and or an or? And, right? Because you don't see any arrows. So this is that in-between one that I just showed you. What number does it start at? What number's on the far left? Huh? 0, right? Starting here, 0. What number does it end at? 3. We put our X in between, and what are the two inequalities that go in? What do they both look like? Less than or greater than?
Less than. Greater than.
Which one?
3.
Less than. Remember I showed you on the other example here? If you want to say between, you got to make them both less than. Okay? So, less than, less than. Although, which one of these needs a line? The one with the 0 or the one with the 3? 3. Because that has a closed circle. And there you go. Okay? So, let's look at the next one. You guys should be able to do the graph for the first one. Yeah? I want you guys to try that. Try the graph, please. Alright, so your graph, since it's or, I know I have arrows, right? You gotta take it one piece at a time. X is less than 1. Alright, I'm gonna go to 1. Open circle, less than, so to the left. Yes? Alright, so now let's go to the next one. X is greater than or equal to 3. Right? Because it's greater than or equal, so it's a close. So now, set builder notation, guys, it's still the same thing. Curly braces, X bar. You just have to put all of your inequality, that whole thing, even the word or, You gotta write it all in here. Okay? Now, interval notation is a little bit different here, okay? Now, if I look, I have an arrow going to the left. Where is that coming from?
The one.
Huh?
The one.
What?
The one.
No. If you have an arrow going to the left, what do we write?
Negative infinity.
Negative infinity. Good. And then, where does it stop, Tom?
It stops at the one.
At the 1. Oh my goodness, what happened? There it goes. Right. And then it stops at the 1. You know what? That's the first piece of this graph. You can only do 2 things at a time inside the parentheses bracket interval, right? So let's go fill this in. Around the infinity, negative infinity, I have to put parentheses. What about around that 1? Do I do parentheses or do I do bracket?
Parentheses.
Parentheses. Now, you still have a second piece to this graph, right? So, in order to show that you have more things, you have to put a little u. Okay? Put a little u, and then now we can start the next interval. Alright? So the next one, it starts at 3. And then there's an arrow going to the right. Where's that going? Thank you. So infinity gets a parentheses. What does the 3 get? Bracket. Good. And there you go. That's how you do that one. A little bit more complicated, right? Let's try the next one. So is the next one an and or an or? And, right? If you don't see the word or, then it's an and. Okay? I mean, because it has the 2 numbers, the saying is between. So, let's graph this. 1, is it open circle or closed circle at the 1? Thank you. Is it an open circle or a closed circle at the 3? Open. There we go. Right? So now, how do we do the set builder? Same way. Curly braces, X bar. Put this whole inequality in the set builder notation. Okay? Now, what about the interval notation? How do we do this? Where does it start? Where does my graph start? At 1. And then where does my graph stop? At 3. Okay, so tell me, at 1, do I get parentheses or do I get a bracket?
Bracket.
Good. And at 3, what do I have? Parentheses. Good job. The next one's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's saying it's between what and what?
Negative infinity and infinity.
Yeah, so then what kind of number is this? All the way from negative infinity to positive infinity. Which number?
All the numbers.
It's all the numbers. It could be fractions, like everything, right? So how do you graph that? Well, you gotta have an arrow going to the left to show negative infinity. You gotta have an arrow going to the right to show positive infinity. You're saying all real numbers. So set builder notation gets a little bit different when you're talking about all real numbers. We want to do curly braces, and we want to do X bar. Okay?
You do the weird E thing.
Yeah.
The R.
So you have to do X and draw like a C, and then put a little line through it, so now it looks like a curved E. And then do you remember how to write all real numbers from Algebra 1 with the big R, with the double? Yeah, that's what we're going to put in. Right. So it's the set of all numbers X such that X is an element of all real numbers. Okay? So now interval notation. Guys, you have an arrow going to the left. Where's that going? Or where's it coming from? Which one? Positive or negative? Good, because it's coming from the left, right? Negative infinity, and then you have an arrow going to the right. Where's that going? Positive infinity. And what do the infinities get? Parentheses or brackets? Parentheses. Good. Okay? All right, questions so far? Comments? Huh? No? Okay. All right, so let's look at the next one. What does the next one say? X is what?
X is not equal to 1.
Not equal, right? Because if it has an equal sign with a line drawn through, it means it's not equal. So if we're talking about a number that is not equal to 1, well then it's basically any number, right? Just not 1. Yeah? Okay. So then we have to graph this by putting an open circle on the 1. It could be all numbers that are less than that. And it could be all numbers that are what? Greater. Good. Right? So now let's write out our set builder notation. Curly braces, X bar. You can just write the inequality that they gave you, or this expression that they gave you. X is not equal to 1. Okay? And then interval notation. Well, let's see. There's an arrow going to the left. Where's that coming from?
Infinity, negative infinity.
Negative infinity. And then it stops at where?
1.
At 1. Right? Because there's an open circle there. Okay, we filled up our 2 slots. Tell me, what notation does negative infinity get? Parentheses or brackets?
Parentheses.
And then what about that 1?
Parentheses.
Parentheses, why?
It's open circle.
Because it's an open circle, okay? But we still have to talk about the right side of this, right? So we're going to put a little U. And then we're going to say, you know what? It also starts at 1 again. And then it goes to the right, which is headed towards infinity. So I'm going to put parentheses around the infinity. Does this 1 also get parentheses too?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's still the same 1. It has an open circle. Okay? You guys doing okay? All right. Questions about this? I would like you guys to try the next 4, okay? Do me a favor, try the first one, and then compare your answers with somebody in the room. All right? I want to make sure that you guys can do this on your own, all right, and see how much of it you can do on your own because you're going to have homework on this, okay? All right, so I'm going to put my answers up so you guys can check. Make sure you guys check your answers to these notes, okay? Make sure that they look like mine.